I'm Heather from Here Booktubes, and today is my January reading wrap-up. So I read 18 books, I DNF'd 6, and I'm going to talk about 12. So basically the first half of the month I only read 2 books. I was in a huge reading slump, was struggling, and I was getting farther and farther behind my Goodreads goal. So I got to 5 books behind my Goodreads goal, and now I'm basically maintaining that deficit. So I'm just consistently 5 books behind. So I'm not worried about it, but just know that's where we're at. As always, we're going in chronological order. So the first book that I read was Clean Sweep, which is Innkeeper Chronicles #1 by Ilona Andrews. I gave this 5 stars. This was actually a reread for me, but I enjoyed it so much more than I remember enjoying it, and I think I know why. So I was thinking that there was not that much romance in this book, but for an Ilona Andrews book, there is a good bit of romance. There's quite a bit of romance. However, there's only one kiss at the end of the book, so there's no steam at all, and I think that was kind of my issue with it at that point. Like, I needed it. So this is, of course, being read for the Ilona Andrews read-along. We are currently in Innkeeper Chronicles. The first live show was on Novelty Corner, and the other live shows might be too. I don't know. But this is a sci-fi paranormal romance. It is a very unique premise. So you have innkeepers. Earth as a whole is kind of a crossroads for the universe, and so they enjoy neutral status, and most humans don't know about any paranormals. And innkeepers specifically are a sanctuary. They are neutral ground. If an innkeeper accepts a guest, they will do any and everything to protect that guest as long as the guest stays on the inn grounds. They cannot go anywhere else, right? They are not supposed to get involved. They are supposed to stay neutral. However, Dina, whatever her name is, our main character, we open up the book and there are dogs in the neighborhood being kind of brutally killed, and she knows that it's not a wild animal, and she gets the attention of the local werewolf who just moved in and is like, hey, they're doing this in your territory. If you don't take care of it, I'm going to. And he's like, you're crazy, lady. I don't know what you're talking about. And they are just like getting antagonistic. So then she goes out and she helps save somebody from this like nightmare creature, right? And he's like, why would you do that? And he cannot figure out what she is. He should know, and he doesn't, and she thinks that's odd. And so the two of them are going to form an unlikely alliance / love story while she battles things in Costco, and they run into space vampires, and just so incredibly unique, clever, well done. The action scenes, the references, it's funny, the love story, the entire explanation for all of this paranormal stuff and how it's different from what you might expect but also has those same bones. Just everything I've ever wanted. Then I read The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate, which is the 5 packs #3 by Cate C. Wells. I gave this 5 stars. So we've seen these characters in the first couple of books. We have a older wolf who is a lone wolf, and his wolf is feral and completely out of control of him. It can kill and harm anyone while he just is stuck watching. So he finds out that his mate is this barely of age girl in the pack, and so he consummates it because they have to, like biologically they can't not, and then he abandons her, and he's just trying to keep her alive. Like, that's it. He's just trying to keep her alive, and she's so young, and he, you know, lives in a shack in the woods and is old and is by himself and all of the things. And of course she's very upset. She's like a fairy core girl, cottage core, and my heart just broke for these two. I was like, would you please just get your happily ever after, because I need to see it. You two are killing me with this angst and this pining and all the things. So they have forced proximity when they are captured and kidnapped, basically. He always worshipped her, but he needed to keep her safe. His wolf was forced out as a child from abuse, so content warning for that, but I just needed them to be together, and eventually they were. It paid off, but let me tell you, the angst in this one killed me. Then I read Last Light by Claire Kent, another one where the angst. I gave this 5 stars. So this is a post-apocalyptic dystopian type romance. This is technically a standalone, but there's kind of a spin-off series, which I will be reading next. And this is another age gap that was done really, really, really well, because you have this older guy who was her mechanic before the world changed. And you have this girl, she's like 20. So she was like 16 when the world ended, basically, right? And their town had been holding out, but now they're out of resources and they had to move. The rest of the town left. They both had to stay for people who were too sick to travel. Both of those people, one being his daughter and one being her grandmother, have passed, and now they are on their own. And they meet on like the first page out of the town, and he's like, let me travel with you and protect you. And she's like, I don't think so. I think I'll still be better off on my own. And he's like, you know me, it's not safe out here. Trust me. And she's like, no. So she goes, and then he catches up with her, helps her out of a tense situation, and then they decide to travel together. And he just makes it very clear that he does not need sex from her to protect her, which is obviously a very common trait. And they are going to try and warn their town that has gone to this big city that a huge like horde is coming and it's not safe there anymore, right? So they're on the way to do that, and she's a virgin, and eventually she's just like, look, I can't control anything in this whole world, and I want my first time to be with you. And he's just like, I don't understand why you would want this, like, and just worships her and is also so dirty. They don't tell each other that they love each other until like the very end, and he's just like, how could you not know that I adore you? And it's it's so good. So in this, a couple things that stood out to me. Around the campfire, she sings Be Thou My Vision, which is a song that I sing in church a lot and was just like one of my favorites, and just very spiritual moment for me, I guess. So the scenes where that happened just like got to me. I cried. There's a dog. Nothing bad happens to the dog, so that's safe, and it was so sweet. They talk so much about how in any other situation other than the end of the world, they would have never been interested in each other. She would have just been a young girl that he fixed her car, and he never would have even dreamt of dating her because he's not a pervert. And like, she wouldn't have been interested in him. She would have continued, you know, with her high school boyfriend who was killed after the end of the world and things like that, you know. Like, they never would have been together in any other situation. But here, they were everything each other needed. The like epilogue / ending does end with a pregnancy and a marriage proposal, which I thought was a bit sketchy, but whatever. Immaculate. I don't even care. By the way, I DNF'd so many books, so the reason why, you know, you're getting a lot of high ratings is if I wasn't loving it, I wasn't finishing it. So know that. Then I read For Her Safety, which is Night Brothers #2 by Dria Andersen. I gave this 4 stars. She just writes the most low conflict, no third act breakup, insta love, just this really good Black love paranormal. This one is Panther Shifter, and this is the one I was confused about because he's been looking for his daughter since he found out that she existed, and then she's the mother of his daughter but not the biological one. So she and her husband, who was a Panther Shifter, took custody of this baby because the mother begged them to, and then eventually her husband died, and now it's just her and her daughter, and she has been harassed by the mother's family and the husband's family and stuff, and so she's moved to try and have sanctuary, and that's how the father runs into them. And I loved how, even though she was human, how protective she was of her child, and also how accommodating she was to the dad and to his family, and understanding that they wanted to be part of her life. And this gives me exactly what I want every time I pick up one of her books. So I just, really appreciate having that safe read with the paranormal as well. And there's just no internal conflict or any of the things. Like, they just get along. Then I read The Mermaids Kiss by Elsie Winters, which is one little novella in the Once Upon a Forbidden Desire anthology. I gave this 5 stars. This is under 10,000 words, so it's short. This is a Little Mermaid retelling, but he is the merman, and they meet as children, and they are lifelong friends, and you really only see the 2 of them on page, but her family is rich elves, and they're going to force her into a marriage, and she goes to him instead. So there's a steamy scene, and it's just the 2 of them being so freaking sweet the whole time. So you see them, as children and teens, and then finally as adults. And I would recommend reading Elsie Winters in order. We see them at a wedding in Magpies and Mayhem, and in the Siren book, what is that called? I don't remember, but the first full length and the second book in the series, it talked a lot about how sirens and mer people and stuff, how they mate and how they bond, and he talks about how he doesn't have to worry about a female siren getting him because he's pretty much already bonded to someone, and it's her, and I just loved them. If you know me, then you know I just don't care about aquatic or mer or any of the ocean paranormals, and I don't care. Elsie Winters can write literally anything, and I will probably end up adoring it because I just love her writing and characters so much. Then I read Magic Tides, which is Cate Daniels' The Wilmington Years, #1 by Ilona Andrews. This is 5 stars. This is a spin-off series of the Cate Daniels series. You must read the Cate Daniels series before reading this. This follows Cate and Curran and another very important character after the series, and so you're getting all of their POVs, which was so much fun. They would have had to have ruined this book for me not to absolutely adore it, because I was so happy to be back with my characters that, a 5-star was almost a no-brainer. Like, I love it, and I don't care. So we did have a live show for this on Novelty Corner. Most of our other side characters were new to us. They weren't from the original series, and there was a phone call to a character from the original series that made me so happy. It's a long novella, like 167 pages, and just, if you love Cate Daniels, highly recommend picking it up. Then I read Raybearer, which is Raybearer #1 by Jordan Ifueko. I gave this 5 stars. I read this, I've always, been a bit interested in it, but I really kept it on my TBR because Ray at Bookmark Chronicles loves this book. And it's about a girl who's going to become like one of the chosen ones for the king, and there's a court of like 12, and they're sworn to each other, and her evil mother basically told her that when she meets the king, the future king, she has to kill him. Okay, so I thought that we were going to have her like battling them with that quite a bit, and then I also thought that it was all going to be amongst these 12 children. But that's really not quite what we get. She is battling this, but there's paranormal elements that I think that you should just not know. Maybe just go into it not knowing. I was emotional from like the very beginning of this book. Like they broke my heart in like the first 2 pages. It was a lot, and I could not believe how much I cared for every character, whether they were a good or a bad character. They really were complex and fleshed out, and you understood their pain, and just whew. So they have like 4 of the children are more main characters, and the others are really just background, and then you also have a few adults that are prevalent in the story. It was so much better than I thought it would be. I had pretty high expectations. I expected to enjoy it because it's young adult fantasy. I'm not going to pick up a young adult fantasy that I don't expect to enjoy if that's not the genre or age group that I read mostly. So I thought I would like it, but honestly, it was better than I thought it would be. There's a little bit of a romance side plot. It really explores a lot of the themes that you might expect in a young adult fantasy, but in a different way, in its own way, and I really appreciate that, and I had a wonderful time. Then I read The Winter Queen by Jay Gala. I gave this 3 stars. This is Jessica Gadziella's Wide Shoes pen name. This is a fantasy romance, and it is FF, MM, FMM, and FM scenes, steamy scenes. So content warning for assault, attempted SA, whipping scars on the side character or love interest that we see from the past, and also homophobia. So we don't really see any homophobia on the page, but it's definitely referenced that the world is. So like the men kind of keep their relationship a secret, and the lady's maid is kind of a social pariah because her preferences are known, and that's how she's lost many a position, is being involved with someone in the house. And so we have this young bride that comes from another land, and she didn't grow up in the best home or anything, and she comes to the Winter Kingdom, and the Winter King is old, and this is his 3rd wife. He's never had an heir, and he's like, look, 1, I am too old. 2, I think that I'm the problem. Okay, so because of the political situation, you need to have a baby. So what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you sleep with my personal guard. And personal guard turns into her personal guard, turns into her lady's maid. I really enjoyed the fact that it wasn't one female main character and then all of her love interests were men. I liked that, and this was pretty safe, pretty low conflict, and just, you know, a good safe read if you want fantasy wide shoes. Then I read Taken by a Sinner, which is Sinners #1 by Michelle Hurd. Okay, I gave this 2 stars. This was not good. I have so many gripes with this book, and I already told you that pretty much everything was rated high because I was DNFing like crazy. But this book was so addictive. I just could not put it down. So I was just, you know, flipping pages. I was just racing through this book. And it's not that often I feel that like consuming need to read the book, right? So in that sense, 5 stars, A+. However, I took issue with so many things. So let's get into it, shall we? He is her brand new stepbrother. He is the head of the Greek Mafia, and they have a huge age gap. She's like 20 and he's like 36 or something like that. And he's very antagonistic towards her to start. And they have just met as their parents are getting married. So it's not like they ever grew up with each other or anything like that, right? So much. Okay. So I've got content warnings for fat phobia, abuse, PTSD, anxiety disorder caused by repeated trauma and abuse. And let me just tell you how much I despise the anxiety and panic attack representation in this book. And I'm gonna tell you why. It's because apparently, I don't know if you know this, because I definitely didn't know this, you don't need Xanax anymore if you have love. If you have that person who can lend you their strength by their force of will and the love that they have for you, you don't have an anxiety disorder anymore. It's wild because I just was not aware that soulmates were the cure for anxiety, especially not anxiety that started from constant and repeated abuse from the ages of 8 to 18. I don't know. I just feel like maybe you might need more than love for that, but you know, you don't need your pills anymore. So I guess we're good here. I would, so no. I understand having a person be your safe place and also just like really helping you to bring you comfort, right? Like being with my husband, he makes everything better. It is better if he is there, right? Doesn't matter what's distressing me. It doesn't necessarily take it all away, but it does make it better to be with him, right? Like, he is that for me because I can trust him. I love him. I know that he will do his best to protect me and take care of me in whatever way that he needs to. So truly, I do get so much comfort from my spouse, right? But just like, take your medication. You have an anxiety disorder. I definitely understand, again, it helping that he's there now, but I really didn't like how he was able to just be a substitute for it because love. And the fat phobia is not just like the characters, it's really the way the author talked about it. So she was fat as a child, but she's not fat anymore. Now she's beautiful and she has the perfect hourglass figure, but why would he want her? Again, it's one of those things where we all have body issues. I've never had anyone actively try to drag me down or like destroy my perception of my body or mock me for my looks on a repeat basis. Like, that's never happened to me. So obviously it makes sense that it would be more of a struggle if you actively had that happening in your life. But like, you're a perfect 10. You are exactly what society deems to be hot. You are, you know, so why are we doing this? And just that, again, frustrated me. And the way the author talked about it with just, you know, she's not fat now, she's beautiful. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. Then they kept having her be fragile then strong. Flip-flop, flip-flop, snip-snap, snip-snap. Like, just pick a character development and go on that arc. You can't be like, oh, she stands up to him. Oh, she's so weak, she needs protection. Oh, she stands up to him. Like, just, oh, like, it annoys me so much when authors do that. I'm just like, you can't retract what you already did progress-wise. I am not a fan. The mom was not a good mom. Like, I am sorry, but how do you live in a house with your child who lost their parent and who is being horrifically abused for all those years and you just don't know? And also, like, it's not your fault that she has to be forced into a marriage because you found love with the former head of the Greek, like, not a fan. I would say some things, but I won't. Okay, then the hero. The hero had anger issues as his only personality trait. And when I tell you that I do not like a man who cannot control his temper, who spirals into rage at the slightest provocation, and that's supposed to be steamy to me and mysterious and just like a turn on, no. You're a freaking toddler who has the power to hurt people because you're a grown man who throws a tantrum anytime that anything goes wrong, and your famous anger is supposed to be like something impressive. Get a grip. Like, I do not like men who do not understand the fear that they are putting into people or who enjoy the fear that they are putting into people. I understand maybe wanting to put fear into your enemies, but not women, not children, not people who literally did nothing to you. I don't, I understand that we all struggle with things, but a man who has anger issues is not a man that I am willing to be in the vicinity of on a regular basis. I'm not working for you. I'm not marrying you. I'm not having children with you. I am not willingly putting myself in your path if you cannot control your temper. Okay, then the plot was very meh, whatever. There was a pleasant surprise in that he was not jealous of her friendship with her bodyguard. I liked that. Intensely readable, but that last 20% was too long. This was a long book and it was a little bit too long. I really think it should have been edited down. Then I read Sinful Desire, which is Mafia Misfits #4 by Monique. I gave this 4 stars. So this is the sister of the first couple heroes, or the heroes 1 and 3, something like that. And she is from the Italian Mafia, and then our hero is from the Irish Mafia. And their relationship in this book, we got to see basically their relationship through all the other books. So we start before the first book with their timeline, and then we get more from like the other books, which that was pretty cool. I liked that because we were teased about them a lot. Content warning for sex trafficking that they, you know, kind of deal with the ramifications of, but just, you know, Black love, the supportive families, the women that are just as lethal as their men, just truly top tier. This is everything I want out of a Mafia series. In case you haven't noticed, this is currently my go-to Mafia series, so if I want a guaranteed good Mafia book, I read one of these. Then I have In a Jam by Cate Canterbury. 5 stars. Finished this on the last day of the month. This is another long book, but I read it from like evening to bedtime, and then I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning and I was like, whatever, I'm not going back to sleep, I'll read this book. And then I read it from like 5:30 in the morning to like 1:30 in the afternoon. This is a contemporary romance with a single parent. He has custody of his niece, and she is a teacher who is living in Boston and gets jilted at the altar. That's what we open up to, is that scene. And then she finds out that her step-grandmother left her her farm, but she has to get married for it. And we really never find out why the grandmother did this. So she goes back. She's not really planning on getting married for it, but she has the farm for a year without meeting the requirements, and she just wants to go back. And she runs into her high school best friend, and he has this little girl. And the little girl is going to have to repeat kindergarten. She's a kindergarten teacher, and she's like, no, let me help her. Like, that's definitely not going to help. The little girl has been through a lot of trauma. Her mom is incarcerated for life and was abandoned basically accidentally, and then in foster care before her uncle could get her, right? So she has a lot of issues. She swears. She thinks she is a pirate. She plays pirate all the time and is very prevalent on page, but is the perfect little 6-year-old. Just, I loved her. I loved seeing her in this book, and the way that he took care of her and the way that she bonded with her right away. Just, oh, this is exactly what you want from a single parent romance. Exactly what you want. So he's so grumpy. He's so grumpy, but he's like, let me marry you so you can have the farm. And she's like, why would you do that? And he's like, because I've been in love with you my entire life, but I'm not going to tell you that. So I'm going to tell you so I can have the farmland. So they do, and this is a slow burn. So first of all, he doesn't talk very much, and then also there's no steam until like 60% in the book. But then he is a dirty talker. The mouth on this man, the steam was so good. By the time you got to it, you were ready. Also, he calls her wife all the time from like the very beginning, and it is perfection. I am such a sucker for a marriage of convenience and them saying wife. I'm just obsessed with that, and you get so much of it in this book. And I just loved that so much. Like, it made me happy every time he said it, and he said it a lot. The angst, the pining, the ache in my heart. I teared up at the end of this book so many times. I just want them all to be loved and to be okay and to be happy, and just like, can you all please get it together, because I just need you to be okay. There's no third act breakup in this. I heard about this from Sil at the Book Voyager on Twitter, but then Steph, Novelty Corner, just read it. We had both talked about how we had it on our TBR. She just read it and she loved it so much, and she talked about how she adored it and it was a favorite, and I was like, I'm gonna pick it up, and I did. So thank you, Steph, for pushing me into reading it, because it was worth every page. One of the things is, I don't like angst, and I don't like that feeling. I don't like it. And it's not because it's done poorly. It's because I feel it so much, and I don't really like feeling it. Like, it's a little bit stressful. I would rather you didn't do that to me. But oh my God. I love them, okay? I love them. I love them, and they can do no wrong. And there was a couple different points where I was like, oh, don't do this. And then that's not what the author did with it, and I just really appreciate it so much. And then lastly, I did read Gerard DeMille and Helen Meet, which is Innkeeper Chronicles 0.1 by Ilona Andrews. I gave this 3 stars. This is just one scene, basically. It's Dina's parents meeting. I was left with more questions than I got answers, so I'm just really quickly going to sum this up for you. You can read it on their website for free, but if you don't want to, he kind of comes across as a morally gray sorcerer type person, and he's like trapped in a bubble or something, like a, you know, like he's trapped in this house in the basement, but he can like cosmically project. And then she comes with 2 little kids, and she's being shown the house by a realtor, and he basically wants to brainwash her into freeing him. And he's been haunting the house because he's trapped in it, but he's been haunting it. So anytime the realtor shows it to anyone that he doesn't want to be part of the house, he, you know, does things. And that's really it. And I am just as confused as I was before. Dina's parents are really just mysterious figures, and I just want to know all the things. So that's it. That's what I read in January. Let me know if you have read or want to read any of these. Let me know your favorite book from January. Let me know if I loved any of these, what I should read next, all the things. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.